I guess I didn't, that was scanned, and I'm like, I don't know how I can get back to the, you're getting.
Luckily,
Well, the salvation is not lost, that's about
on Sunday, you said.
So we're gonna be done with Revelation?
I don't know,
Is
this,
this
I asked it.
He didn't commit.
Yeah, you did.
It's hard to mention, but you know. But I think we've done well this time. I usually dread studying Revelation. So much inconsistency, so many people arguing, so. But I think he did a good job leading us through it.
Yeah, it takes some digestion. I mean, you're not gonna get it all in one bite.
And no, that's true of any of them, but this one in particular, because it's so futuristic, I think that's fine.
Well, because it's prophecy, it becomes debatable.
Yes.
That's good. The next problem is.
When people,
People try to interpret it however they want.
yes.
I know, but right. That's why I think your dad did a really good job. I wasn't apprehensive at all. Toward the middle, I didn't realize it. You guys going to show nights? Who's going to show nights? Nobody's going to show nights.
How far away is it?
It's high. It's a high.
I'll tell you the
It's
address,
south.
120, I think it's 11325 South Halsted.
Yeah. It's a hike if you live in Lakeport.
Yeah.
It's a hike for me, and I'm not really there.
I kind of think it sounds too high church.
You think? I think.
Haven't
it
come
is
out
high
of Catholicism, I'm sorry,
Why are we
it's,
talking about Good Friday?
I don't know, but I'm gonna go.
okay.
That's
Fellowship
enough
is
for
good,
me.
but why,
We used to have New Year's Eve thing when I was little.
well,
Some
that's
churches
not
had a New Year's Eve celebration.
Well, that's
for
not
Christmas at church.
a liturgical thing, but this is like following the liturgy of the high
Well,
church.
see, it's not for Church of Christ because we don't know what they do. We just know what we do. We're not following. It's not following Church.
Why is
of
it
Christ.
exactly the same day as everybody else?
So what other day you gonna do?
It's, you,
They are if they call it that.
If they call it what?
Good Friday. That
Well, they're
doesn't
not
exist
called-
outside of the liturgical calendar.
But it's not a sin.
I didn't say it was a sin.
Okay, that's.
I just said I'd rather it not be like the high church, because
Oh.
I've made a decision not to be in the high church.
It's bringing in an extra little thing.
I don't like hearing Easter Sunday. Every
Well-
Sunday is Easter. Every Sunday is the resurrection celebration. It
So we
shouldn't-
should bring Easter eggs.
No eggs.
All I'm saying.
What's that got to do with it?
It's
Don't say it's a church thing.
Yeah, I don't think we should have an Easter egg sponsored by the church.
Well-
Not you too old to get them. Yeah, you
No,
say that.
people get confused. People get confused. Those kids are confused. They think something.
I
Hear about
know.
Jesus and
Mammals and lay eggs, come on,
yeah, no.
that whole thing.
No, it doesn't.
Easter eggs. have
But
nothing
it's
to do
still
with
fun.
I don't know what the relatives believe.
So just my opinion, but I couldn't get there by 5. I hardly get out of work by then. So,
Yeah. I have that day off, that's why I can go.
oh, the railroad used to get that as a holiday, but not.
Are you gonna go to Lakeview? That's 6 o'clock.
That's another hard thing for me to get to. You know what? I will consider that, but where do I park?
I know, I was thinking that too, I was gonna try to go really early.
Do you know anything about parking around Lakeview?
Yeah.
Church of Christ. Oh, no, it was, 30 years ago it was hard. They've got a little tiny lot, if that still. And if you're having a performance,
I haven't been there in a long time. I'm gonna try and get there
I
early.
could take the train if, I'm afraid to have a car and be stuck.
It starts at 6.
Yeah.
I just have to try to get there 5:30.
Yeah, but it's not good for people coming from work.
Well, that's a good time.
The problem is that people that work with the church often don't have traditional jobs.
Well,
They
that's,
need to think about how 99%
Retired people
of the
can
rest
get
of the
there.
world-
What, but you can never get a day that's perfect for everybody.
so I'm thinking about it, but even if I get there late, it's better than nothing, but
I think so.
You can't
Cause
start
how long will
stuff.
it be? How long
I
will it
don't
be?
know. High school course, I don't,
Oh, it's high school?
yeah, high school. That's the thing.
I thought you said
Harding
Harding.
Academy is the high
Oh,
school.
yeah.
Everybody thinks it's Cersei, but it has nothing to do with it. They're from Memphis or something. right?
Well,
Yeah.
the
It's
school
just
of
a
religion
high
used to
school
be there,
in Memphis.
so that they
Memphis
probably
High
had,
School.
they have a high school.
Why does it say Harding?
It's Harding Academy, is the name of the
It's
school.
in, oh, it's in Memphis.
Yeah, so back in the day, Harding Academy, like, almost every one of the churches in Memphis had a Harding Academy elementary school
Wow,
in the church.
oh,
Oh,
man,
boy.
a whole system.
Yeah, so there were probably a dozen, different
Wow.
schools
Huh.
in Memphis.
Oh, I thought.
And then
it
one
was
high
from-
school?
And
Arkansas.
then you had one high school.
Uh-huh.
there.
That's very fancy.
Wow.
Treat it in the name, they're saying.
Two.
Yeah.
Now, none of the churches have
Elementary?
a elementary, they have an elementary school. Yeah.
At the
Harding
one,
does a
at the one.
standalone, so they have a standalone elementary, middle, and high school, but like when I was growing up, I did 3 years in Memphis,
Oh.
kindergarten through third grade.
Oh.
and-
Oh, boy.
And my school would have been called Harding Wooddale.
Oh,
because it was at
awesome.
Wooddale Church.
Wow.
So, but I mean, like, there were a dozen of them
Wow,
that were kind of K through 6, I think it was.
wow.
I didn't know many churches had
That's amazing.
school. Did you know churches
It's a little
had that
different in the
school?
Bible Belt, you know.
You said it. That's amazing.
Yeah. That's true.
So how big do you think that high school is now?
I would say, I bet it's 12.
Oh, that's huge.
Yeah, people are going back to that. A lot of
And what about the one in Searcy? How big is that?
Cersei's about north of 6,000.
6,000 high school?
No, that's.
The college, yeah.
That's the college.
How, but there's a Harding, I mean, my friends,
Yeah, I don't know,
Their kids-
there's a Harding Academy, Ezel in Nashville, you got Harding Academy in Memphis, and I think there's a high school in.
seriously, we have
But
friends.
the high school is the only one I know about in Memphis because we live in.
Oh, boy.
I never knew that about.
Yeah.
Are they
We
all
grew up in
affiliated with
Chicago,
the
Alan,
university
we didn't know
or
about these schools. I mean, we went to public school.
That's right.
We didn't go to church schools.
But our friends in,
what? Well, they went
moved to,
I know,
moved
right?
to Searcy so their kids could go to Harding Academy. And now, and then the oldest one, you know, they were, is at Lipscomb, they had done with Harding.
Right, right.
Went to Lipscomb. And then now the one's a senior now at there and.
And they're not technically affiliated anymore,
Oh.
but the naming and all of that was all back around.
But still Church of Christ.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's all Church of Christ.
Wow.
Wow, that's a new person.
Yeah, boy, it's a
Yeah,
different universe.
Could go to Harding, in different places.
Kindergarten. What
That's right.
about preschool? I think they have preschool in Searcy.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah, preschool through 12.
but when they formed them back in the early 70s, you know, the way they did it was through the church.
That's
So
great.
Elementary schools, you know, rather than having to build a new school.
That's awesome.
You had it at your church, and the churches, and they're big, you know, most of your churches. were
You got the Sunday school classes that sit there.
And
Probably.
hey, everybody,
Hi there,
Hello, hello,
Hi.
welcome.
it's Linda.
Linda.
Oh, Linda, hi Linda, how you doing?
I got a bad headache this morning. Didn't
Oh.
go to sleep at all.
We'll go ahead and get started. We're near the end of the book of Revelation, which means we're near the end of the New Testament. And just trying to think of where do we go from here. We could go to the Old Testament and go through it more or less verse by verse as we have the New Testament. That would probably take a little while. In fact, you might have to end it up with a different teacher. But anyway, what I'm thinking is I have put together years and years ago, before the days of internet, a survey of the Old Testament. So it's just more or less a lesson on each book. And I have questions and a reference to maybe chapters in that particular book for suggested preparation. So I'm thinking, I would enjoy going through that again. I enjoyed putting it together and,
Wow, that'd be good to
I
share.
think there's been turnover. Diana might remember it. I used it on Wednesday nights, actually, years and years ago. But
Did you say make some of the big long books might take more than one?
yeah, but maybe a week or two per book. So it's not going to last a real long time. We don't really get bogged down, but try to focus on the theme. And as I say, with each book, you urge to read the whole book, but I also have some chapters that maybe if you don't have time to read the whole book, you can look at those chapters, and then there's a series of questions.
That's interesting, Alan. I would like that.
So, okay, then we'll think about that. I'll have to get them. They're all handwritten, by the way, from the old days. Have to type them up now on the computer. Anyway, there's references to Revelation all over the place. Did you get the one from the song that we sang?
Yeah, the rapture.
My raptured soul.
Yeah,
My raptured soul. We can think of it as a soul, a rapture, over an overjoyed soul, and that goes with the theme of the song. But it's probably in the mind of the songwriter a reference to a different doctrine with regard to Revelation.
Yeah, I think
So, but anyway, I just
Near the cross.
Yeah.
Was in that song.
Did you?
my raptured
Think
soul.
about the Titanic. Isn't that
When I
the
was
song they
thinking
played
about it, I think of that.
when the Titanic
Yeah.
was sinking?
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody uses that word outside of that.
No, yeah, rapture is a word that we don't use very
what
often.
the Church of Christ doesn't use.
That's
Other
right.
places-
Wait, Gilbert and Sullivan. Oh, joy. Oh, rapture.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's 150 years.
I know, and then left behind
140
me.
years ago.
There you go.
Right. I didn't know.
Anyway, I just thought we'd bring ourselves back to Revelation chapter 21 with that reference, because these verses that we're looking at now are happy verses, rapturous verses, if you will, because it's about the new Jerusalem, the new heavens and the new earth. Barbara mentioned last time, as we were leaving, is this an earth that has been reconstituted as a new earth, a new heavens and a new earth, or is it a kind of a different creation? There's arguments both ways, because when the word that was used for the destruction by Peter, he said, this world will be destroyed by fire. The word is the same one that was used in the Old Testament, destroyed by water. And the world as it existed was destroyed by water, but it was kind of the same planet was used then when Noah came out of the ark, and it was in a sense a new place. Been a lot of changes. So some people feel that the new heaven and the new earth will be kind of a reconstituted planet Earth and skies above. I don't know. It says, I've made all things new. I've made all things new, which seems to suggest that it's going to be something quite different from what we know. And the vision given to John is consistent with that, because he doesn't see a bunch of physical characteristics like the old was with the sea. There's no more sea, but it seems like there is a river. How is that going to work?
Where does it go? Yeah.
Yeah, still may be bodies of water, but just not oceans.
Okay, yeah,
It's just me.
it may be.
It's stripped down to whatever essence it had at the beginning of Genesis. When it didn't have a form yet. And new forms are created on.
It
top
could
of
be.
what was there.
See, I like that. I think, I
Okay,
agree with you.
That fits with the language about the elements melting and all that the essential parts of what we see now are broken down, and then something completely new is brought
Yeah.
up from that.
it could be. We'll see maybe when we get there, when we see that. But it is to be, and it's a spiritual realm where we have new bodies. Will they look like this body in ghost form? You know, I don't think so. Will they be recognizable? I think so. How will that be? I don't know.
What age will you be? Yeah.
What's that?
What age will you look
Yeah,
like?
what if
I
you're
bet it's
resurrected? Are you going to be the age when you died?
You have a halo, and you could have, you could have a heart,
Yeah.
you know, a white gown.
Stop,
Wow,
Mike, just
that's
stop, just stop.
Well, all the disabilities of old age that some of us have experienced, will those be done away with? We
Like
kind of,
Jesus, when Jesus was resurrected, what kind of body did he have? They didn't notice right away. He was different
They
than he
recognized.
was.
Oh, that's true.
Well-
They noticed it later because he ate food,
yeah,
but he kind of walked through walls and stuff.
I think he did that before, didn't he?
pass through their midst.
What
He
did he miss?
appears in the room,
I think people just said.
but at Nazareth, early in his ministry, they are trying to take him to put him to death, and he passes through their midst. Now, how did he do that? Were they blinded or kept from grabbing him? I don't know. It's
Interesting.
anyway, but we do know where we kind of left off in verse 5 of chapter 21. I am making everything new. Write this down, for these words are trustworthy and true. I am the Alpha, the Omega, the beginning and the end. To him who is thirsty, I will give to drink without cost. And we talked about that, the living water, as he mentioned to the woman at the well, from the spring of the water of life. And is that a literal fluid that we will need to sustain life? Whatever it is, God will provide it. He who overcomes will inherit all this, and I will be his God, and he will be my son. But the cowardly, the unbelieving, the vile, the murderers, the sexually immoral, those who practice magic arts, the idolaters, and all liars, their place will be in the fiery lake of burning sulfur. This is the second death.
So we go back to this idea, it's in the Gospels and the epistles, the now and the yet. Okay, our condition now affects the yet to come, the future.
Okay,
So I mean, if we continue, if we rebel and we go back into this old behavior of witchcraft and sexual immorality, et cetera, then, you know, we
that won't be in the New
Inherit.
Jerusalem.
will not inherit, you know,
Yeah.
the coming world.
That's, so we said how horrible it will be if we're in an environment without influence of God. On the other hand, these verses call upon us to envision an environment without evil influences. You know, what will it be to be without temptation? When, you know, without sickness, without disability, we can think of those things, but perhaps more important, without the influence of Satan, without temptation of various. We're subject to that basically all the time. What will it be like to exist without that? What a glorious thing.
The only want to do Right.
the good things. Praise
They're
God.
like robots, kind of like robots.
Well, I
Always
don't
going
know.
one way, doing the right thing, how we're programmed. No temptation
Yeah.
to do wrong. The robots don't have temptation.
That sounds
They
bad.
gotta break down
that's
once in
right.
a while with maintenance, but
I don't think it's a program. I think
But
it's just,
it is something that we'll want to do to
Yeah,
praise
right.
God.
we'll want it.
The angels, I guess we think of the angels as heavenly beings, but some of them made a choice to rebel against God at some point. So, but anyway, he says, no tears in heaven. That's a song too. One of the seven angels who had the seven bowls full of the seven last plagues came and said to me, "Come, I will show you the bride, the wife of the Lamb." And he carried me away in the spirit to a mountain great and high and showed me the holy city, Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God. What a sight that would be. It's kind of like Jesus was taken to a place where he could see all the kingdoms of the world. Moses was taken to a high point where he could see the promised land. And those are the images that came to me as I thought of that. It showed me the holy city, Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God. It shone with the glory of God, which is something we see from time to time in the Old Testament, the glory of God filling the tabernacle, the temple. Its brilliance was like that of a very precious jewel, like a jasper, clear as crystal. We're going to find a lot of references to jewels in this chapter, some of which we are more or less familiar with, others which are very strange to us. And I didn't look up all of them, but anyway, maybe you know some more about it.
You can't describe the beauty,
Yeah,
that's the only way you can describe the magnificence and the beauty. I even have, because I'm not acquainted with the gems, to fully understand the passage. I mean, if I were acquainted with the jewels, better, then maybe we could, understand the beauty, but that's his only way of, communicating the beauty of heaven to us.
yeah. Although some of these jewels, are transparent, whereas the ones that we're familiar with aren't. So they're kind of supernatural. Anyway, this city had a great high wall with 12 gates and with 12 angels at the gates. I don't know, what are they doing there? Generally they're guard. When Adam and Eve were excluded from the Garden of Eden, God put an angel there to guard the entrance. Here, they're back in the presence of God with angels at the gates. The names of the 12 tribes of Israel. There were 3 gates on the east, 3 on the north, 3 on the south, 3 on the west. The wall of the city had 12 foundations, and on them were the names of the 12 apostles of the Lamb. We'd like to know more about how those foundations work. But this is one of the reasons why when we see the 24 elders earlier in Revelation, what is that? We think that it represents the 12 apostles and the 12 tribes of Israel, kind of God's people from the Old and the New Testament. Some people have it a little different, but this is good evidence.
So it's a city filled with symbolic meaning. That's what these foundations are symbolic of all these things. It's built on it.
Okay, yeah,
That's
they're
a
built
picture of it.
not
It's not
on
like Chicago.
not on
anything like
physical structure, but perhaps the foundation is the preaching of the apostles, the message of the apostles. That's a good point. Yeah, we tend to look at it as a physical city from our vantage point, but it's more than that. The angel who talked with me had a measuring rod of gold to measure the city, its gates, and its wall. The city was laid out like a square, as long as it was wide. He measured the city with a rod and found it to be 12,000 stadia. Not too helpful in our day and time, but according to the note in the Bible, about 1,400 miles. How big is 1,400 miles? It's
Very
pretty-
big, very big.
It's not quite as big as the North American continent. I was just looking, what are some things that are 1,400 miles from Chicago? If you're from someplace else, you'll have to figure that out, but what's that?
Miami's-
Like,
It's what-
if from the east, Cuba,
Mm.
Cancun,
What do you mean? Oh, you mean?
1,400
From
miles.
Chicago.
What's 1,400 miles from state of
Cuba?
Madison? Yeah,
Okay.
and going west, Tucson, Phoenix, the Grand Canyon, Las Vegas. Those are all places that's there
1,400.
that are 1,400 miles from Chicago. And so does that mean the city is gonna be,
One side is that, one side?
yeah, that's what, 1,400 miles.
I think the interesting thing is that it's laid out like a square.
Yeah,
Now you don't picture a city as a square.
no, Chicago's oblong, different cities are shaped different,
You know, they're just spread out, different
Yeah.
directions,
yeah,
but,
Cube
pretty bizarre.
perfection,
okay. I think
Like,
that may be
the
the,
most holy place in the tabernacle was a cube
yeah,
to sit to demonstrate perfection.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the idea that the city is perfect.
Isn't that a song for square?
It's a
a
city
song
for square.
Yeah. In the land of fataless day.
yeah, we sing that. don't we?
Yeah,
Don't know much about that.
Gotcha like a whale.
okay,
That's the name.
that's the name of it, okay.
So, that's a pretty big city. It's bigger than,
It makes it easier to measure. when it's a
yeah,
square.
but I think the
Like Chicago,
point
we're
is,
all along the lake, we're all over the place.
Yeah. and John is on this high place, seeing this gigantic thing coming down, and yet he's able to understand its length and breadth. And it is as high as it is long. So it's 1,400 miles high. That's pretty high.
Pretty high, yeah.
I don't know what
It goes into space.
the
out there.
stratosphere or the
Outer space.
ionosphere.
Yeah, the
Anyway.
atmosphere we know of is only a few miles.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
But there won't need to be an atmosphere anymore if the heavenly bodies are all reconstituted as well.
well, that's a good point. How is, we think of the earth, the new heavens and the new earth. What about the rest of the universe with how many billion stars?
We're just a drop in a bucket, that's all we are.
Well, and yet-
In the universe.
it's a drop in the bucket for which the Lord focused and for which Christ died.
Right.
So it's important.
Mhm.
You see more and more articles in the internet anyway about, oh, are we ever going to come into contact with other life from space? Or, some of them say, well, there's some of them walking among us now, which is kind of, I always question it. We know what God's plan is for his creation. What if you meet somebody from another place, a sentient being? What's God's plan for them? I don't think we'll meet them.
Not our problem.
Anyway,
Well, speculation.
we will.
Well, who are we gonna
Star
judge?
Trek,
Are we gonna be judging somebody? Oh, we judging angels.
Angels.
Angels,
What is
and
it?
Yeah, that's where the Mormons get their doctrine of judging on other planets, but
Oh,
that's
they go
right,
way far afield.
that's right.
see,
Anyway, it's a cube. That's a good point. The wall was 144 cubits thick, which is about 200 feet. Imagine a wall as thick as Oh, it's more than the length of the church building here.
That's pretty thin proportionally though for a city.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I-
It's just
The
hard. to
question is, why
conceive
is
of.
there a wall?
Right,
Usually that's to keep undesirable things out. If there aren't any anymore, what do we need it for?
Yeah, he's gonna say the gates are never closed. Generally, that you close the gates at night to keep the bad guys out. But
Well-
with this. There
The
are,
idea is that there's safety. I mean, by keeping the gates open, there's no worry. You know,
Yeah.
there's no worry. I mean, the wall keeps people out, but the idea is that there's safety in the city. The city is safe.
If there was no wall, how would you measure the size of the city?
yeah,
There would be no.
Yeah, that's the only reason it's there.
well, the floor, I don't know.
yeah.
No, this is, I didn't, never paid attention to this,
That's true.
which is also an angel's measurement. What? Is that something else they did?
Where's that?
So it's 144 cubits by
By
human.
man's major,
And then what is
measurement,
the mine says, which is
Which-
also an angel's measurement.
which the angel was using. That's what this says.
Oh, sounds like that's another function I didn't realize they
That
did.
doesn't sound like the same translation.
No, this is ESV.
Yeah, the commentary
Yeah,
is saying
yeah.
that basically the angels using the human measurement, the same, the measurement
They
is the
concur.
same as the
Yeah.
angel.
Yeah.
It's more interesting to think
The way
But that's
they-
amazing.
So angels go around measuring.
The foundations of the city walls were decorated with every kind of precious stone. The first foundation was jasper, then sapphire, chalcedony, emerald. Well, we could read sardonyx, carnelian. I don't know what all these are. Chrysolite, beryl, topaz, chrysoprase, jacinth, amethyst, and different translations have different words there. Some have lapis lazuli, different things. Anyway, just to impose grandeur as John sees this, that it's inestimable value, I guess. The 12 gates were 12 pearls, each gate made of a single pearl. Really good size.
Imagine what the size of the oyster must be.
Really? All of them yet.
The great street of the city was of pure gold, like transparent glass. So that it's some aspects of the city, but some pretty fancy.
You don't think of gold as transparent?
I know,
Right,
I
yeah,
know.
that's something.
So that's why these are kind of supernatural
It's
elements.
a really, really thin layer, maybe, right?
Yeah. Now, I did not see a temple in the city, because the Lord God Almighty and the Lamb are its temple. What's the purpose of a temple?
To worship.
Place of worship.
Worship.
Place of worship, and it's kind of a place where you have special access to God under different religious systems.
Yeah, the God is supposed to be there somehow.
Yeah, that's what the Lord, they had a temporary temple in the form of the tabernacle. They built a more permanent structure in Solomon's time. Like Michael said, it was a cube. But that was where God was. His glory filled the temple. And so that the priests could go in it for a while. And so this is a place where the glory of God is all the time, providing light, whatever we need. So,
Another interesting aspect of it is there's no time here like we know it.
yeah,
This is like timelessness.
that's a
Eternity.
good point.
You know, boggles our mind. We can't quite comprehend it. But there's no clocks on the wall like we got,
There's no night there.
like up there.
There's no night there. That's kind of strange.
Maybe
Right.
that's why there's no time.
Mm-hmm,
There's
yeah.
no time.
Can't
I
mark
was
it.
just reading about this French geologist who did an experiment to see whether time was a construct of the mind or actually something environmental. He submerged himself in a cave for 6 months.
Oh,
where it was dark all the time, and it totally threw his conception of time off.
Sure.
By the time they took him out, he was about a month behind.
Probably a little cuckoo too.
And his circadian rhythm changed. He started staying up for 36 hours and then sleeping for 12. And it was on a 48-hour clock.
Huh,
His memory was damaged permanently, it sounds like. He started getting paranoid and hallucinating, all this stuff.
he was just down there by himself.
Yeah, he was being monitored through equipment on the surface.
God created us in a time zone.
Yeah.
Well, it's like when we changed the clocks
Mhm.
for daylight
Yeah.
saving time. It
Throws you off.
throws people, just 1 hour.
Yeah.
throws
Yeah.
Give you a headache.
And then like when we were up in Alaska, having the we were up at midnight, 1 o'clock, and
Yeah.
it was light as day. There, it's almost like during the summer there's no night, then during the winter,
There's no day.
it's dark most of the time, so.
Had no light at times.
There will be no
Hard on
night
those
there in this New Jerusalem. What'll that be like? This guy was in like darkness for 6 months. We're not constructed now to stay in the light all the time, are we? We need sleep.
Yeah.
We need darkness. We need rest or refreshing. Somehow the new bodies are going to be very different, that we don't need that. That's amazing to me.
Spiritual body.
Yeah.
So that.
Because sometimes I look forward to the night
I know, right? I need some rest.
Get some rest.
You can stay up all night.
because these bodies are not constructed to take constant stimulation. You just get tired of whatever it is, whether it's watching TV or talking with someone or whatever we're doing. We can't do that forever. We have to have rest, but here there's no night. The other thing that came to my mind when I thought about night, remember when Jesus said that someone was going to betray him, and
John says that was night.
it was night. He went out and it was night. That's added by the writer. Night is when Satan does his work. We kind of get the impression. It's, that's why we lock our doors.
Yeah.
Here in the city of Chicago, maybe they don't do it elsewhere, but
That's when most crime happens too, at night
yeah.
in the city. Most of all
Darkness.
these break-ins you hear about, breaking in these stores and everything, it's always at night.
Not always.
I mean, once in a while you have somebody rob a bank in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
But it's rare, but it does happen.
People don't want other people to see what they're doing, they do it at night. But here in the New Jerusalem, we're not going to be doing things that we want to hide. So that's it. And as I say, the body that we have now needs rest. I don't know it's hard to conceive of what the new body will be like. Constant.
I would think it needs rest as well.
What's that?
I would think it needs rest as well.
Yeah.
God rested
Doesn't seem to indicate any rest.
on the seventh day, right?
Yeah.
Not because he was tired. It's a different rest.
Oh.
Okay, we don't know.
But anyway, it's because of the rotation of the earth that we have day and night, right? So
Okay.
the whole thing's gonna be different.
That's right. Because the sun, we don't need the sun and the moon for light. We have the Lord
Yeah.
providing light.
Lamp is the lamp.
So
If the entire universe changes and what we think of in terms of gravitational pull changes, the fundamental forces of the world change.
yeah, the city does not need the sun or the moon to shine on it, for the glory of God gives it light, and the Lamb is its lamp. The nations will walk by its light, and the kings of the earth will bring their splendor into it. Kind of a strange thing. The nations, are there going to be different nations in the New Jerusalem?
What kind not a nation.
The other translation for that word, you know, we think of nations of different nationalities as just people, different people. Well, surely there'll be differences, otherwise we wouldn't be able to recognize it.
Maybe there'll be people from other planets that, you know,
Yeah,
that just been coming here all this
The
time.
chapter-
spying.
The chapter 3:12 tells us the promise of the temple. The chapter 3:12 of this revelation, it tells us the promise of the whole city itself is the temple God dwells in. His temple is the church.
okay,
So the church is that nation. The church came with
Yeah.
we those who passed through the first death in Christ, with Christ, that cannot be defeated by the second death from that nation, from that church. So God dwelling that temple together with us. Yes, I put myself, I'm in Christ, and Christ is in me. So if I'm in Christ, Christ is with me, and then I'm with God. So as we are in that nation, as the temple, God dwells that temple with us. Not probably this body, as we are seeing today, but the spirit that lives in us, that fly away from us. That's the reason why when you sleep and then you dream, you can be, if I sleep here right now, by a minute, if I go to sleep and dream, I'll dream maybe I'm in your house doing something else.
Yeah.
Or how did I find myself in your house? That is it. So that spirit that go out for certain things out there, that the spirit who is going to come for those kind of nation that, the other part of the world that we are going to establish to be with Christ or to be with God as his people and jubilating with God. There is no tiredness. There is no tiredness. You will not work hard to be tired for anything. You will not, struggle for anything. Yours is to praise the Father. Other, like Brother Mike said, other you have the way to be flying off. Flying off.
Oh no.
Sometimes if you dream and you'll be hanging on the mountain, people normally say that I dream I find myself on somewhere on high of the mountain. I'm flying down or this kind of thing. Some people go far away this kind of thing. So that's the beauty I like with the Christian fraternity, that we Christian, we are the nation, a different generation together.
Yeah.
If we believe where we are, that is it. That's the reason why it's very hard. If the book of Revelation itself, sometimes you read it, you interpret it the way you want it, the way you see it. Maybe the way you were expecting from it, that is not how it is at all. You see? But all that the book is telling us is not like last I was talking about the bees and those kind of things, all referring to human beings, the acts of the human, the acts of our leadership, what the Lord God has given, the purpose God has given to humanity to perform, and they are not doing it, we are not doing it, and Jesus, connected with God, came back and put a difference, tag for us, go through this, I'll come back. And they were saying things and well, Jesus, I'll come back and take back my kingdom. And who are those going to be in the kingdom? That's where we find ourselves, Jesus, children of God. Christian. You see? So the book of Revelation, if you sit with it and then go through sometimes it put fear in you to go back to yourself, reflect yourself, and see if you are in the right track.
Yeah.
Sometimes it gives you confidence to move forward, that yes, I'm doing the right thing and I'm in the right track. You see?
Yeah.
So the temple, as I'm saying, is a temple of God, is a nation. But that nation is a temple. It's not just a temple that we find ourselves in the worshiping place just now. It's a city, but it's a temple because God dwells there. He is there with we the children. He's there with we the children, living happily together.
That's a good point. We kind of get tied up in the geography of the thing. Whereas back earlier we said, what is John being shown here? The New Jerusalem, but the bride of Christ. He's being showed, revealed, the bride. This is what the church, the people of God are like, this four square thing. And it's interesting, he says, the kings of the earth will bring their splendor into it. And later, nothing impure, but only though nothing is shameful to be brought into it. So everything that's good, I guess, is what he's saying. The kings of the earth will bring their splendor into it. The kings of the earth, most of them were not good. But the splendor, there'll be a lot of beauty there.
It simply means
No night.
It simply means rulers, kings of the earth are rulers. So some rulers will be in, the New Jerusalem, whereas others will be outside.
Yeah. Nothing impure will ever enter it, nor will anyone who does what is shameful or deceitful, but only those whose names are written in the Lamb's book of life. So
That gave us the correct picture, confidence.
Yeah,
as a Christian.
That's right.
Because the kings of the earth, you can see they are doing it right now. You can see the rulers of the world, what their performance is, what they are doing. They are programming, things that they are gathering together to, that's the reason why we as a Christian, if we study back, we should be very careful not to copy things from the world and think that maybe sometimes you think that the church is coming down. Even the people in the church, the vineyard is coming down. So let me introduce something from the out to the church to please people to do what? To welcome them into the church. That's the time you are pushing things that God don't want, or the Father don't acquire you to please yourself to the church, for people to be pleased to come to the church. But he rather want the small that is clean and worthy, more than the majority that is what? Corrupt. Because if you want to please people, then we introduce things that will not match the will of God into the church. And you have a lot. You have human beings surrounded you, praising you. But if you stay by the truth, this world, we hate the truth. We don't like the truth. We always like to be lied to. When we were deceived, then we will jump and cry. But when we are telling the truth, you see that we will go back because the truth always hurt. But God wants us to tell the truth. And those who believe in the truth will be the one who constitutes temple and the green city and the church for him to be worked out.
Well, we didn't quite finish the book. Maybe one more week of comments on the last chapter of Apocalypse or Revelation, and then we'll move on. It's been a long journey through the New Testament, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much.
Type up your notes.
I'll be working on them.
Bye.
Okay,
Linda, hope
Darlene
you feel better.
and
It goes back to
Linda,
the 18th century.
thanks for coming on.
Could everybody pray for my son-in-law, he's having Nancy put in his heart
Oh, boy.
on Tuesday. He was doing some kind of little stress test and they found something.
Wow.
So they're gonna look his arm.
Blessing.
Huh.
Yeah, so Tuesday.
Good for him for going to getting checked.
Yeah, I don't know what, he wasn't trying to get checked, there was something else going on, and it was a stress test that he had to do. And they found it.
Wow.
I know.
Maybe providential.
Yeah, it's better than finding it in 20 years.
Oh, after he had a stroke, yeah,
Good.
you know,
Yeah, that's great.
so it's good, yeah, because he's only 44.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a young guy.
All right,
All right.
everybody have a
All right,
good
have a good week, Linda. I mean, Barbara.
That's why I posted.
Thinking about Linda.